my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. We promised you some allergy relief this morning, and we are going to do a deep dive. We know how many people are affected by allergies, but we are taking a medical turn today. South Africa has one of the highest asthma death rates in the world, with around 15,000 deaths each year. That is shocking. Now, the effects of asthma can worsen during allergy season, as many of the same substances that trigger your allergy symptoms, such as pollen, the dust mites, pet hair, that dander, may also cause asthma signs and symptoms and exacerbate them.
And I love having this conversation because the thing is we get to impart some knowledge, you get to ask some questions, and we need the right type of people on the couch. And we've got them today. You're in for a treat. Professor Heather Zar is here, a pediatric pulmonologist, as well as Professor Mike Levine, CEO of the Allergy Foundation of South Africa. They've developed a new device called the AfriSpacer. I feel like that needs an echo.
Sure.
AfriSpacer.
Maybe some music.
Yes, which makes inhalation of medication from an asthma pump easier and far more effective. Thank you so much for joining you two. It's a really important thing. If you look at those asthma rates, we need to bring those down, but education's the only way forward, definitely. Welcome.
Thank you. Morning.
Congratulations, I suppose one needs to say, because I would imagine it's been quite a road to get to this point. Heather, I understand that the idea originated with you. How did this all begin? Because this feels like a bit of a penny drop moment, something simple that's really, really effective.
Wow, well, yes, way back when I started to work at Red Cross Children's Hospital, I was struck by the number of children coming through who were getting medicine by mouth, oral medication for asthma, no inhaled, not using inhalers at all. And one of the main reasons was the spacer, which we'll explain allows the medicine to get into the lungs very well, was very expensive and unaffordable. Okay. So I was sitting there watching all these children come, and I thought, what can we do? And I started to work on a bottle spacer, and we also looked at a polystyrene cup as an option.
Wow.
And we ended up doing a whole lot of studies, sophisticated clinical studies, studies looking at how much medicine actually gets into the lungs. And it turned out that the bottle was a highly effective spacer. So,
you MacGyvered it. You just went MacGyver route.
Well,
you did it.
No.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't only me, it was really an incredible team, from the handyman at Red Cross to the nurse who was involved to the staff and families. It's been a long journey.
Well, you had us on the Red Cross Children's Hospital because we know it takes a village. It takes such an effort across so many lines. So this is amazing.
Sure. So we've seen devices before, but the AfriSpacer is very unique. I mean, it looks great. So, Mike, what sets it apart from other devices that you may see in the market?
So when Heather designed the first version of the bottle spacer, it was made from a recycled cool drink bottle. And it was really cool. She came up with some great ideas to burn a hole in the bottle, in the base. But one of the big problems was that it wasn't something that was scalable. It wasn't something that was able to be produced en masse. And the other problem with the first version of the bottle spacer was it didn't have a valve. So it wasn't perfect in terms of its applicability across all different age groups. Yeah. So this spacer is a modification of that original spacer, which we developed rapidly during the COVID pandemic in order to roll out as many spaces as possible. We wanted to avoid people having to go for nebulized therapy and spread the virus across in emergency rooms, etc. So we designed a way of mass producing these by modifying the blow molding technique to make the bottle in the first place. We've got an orifice over here that fits the spaces perfectly. It's got little ridges on it so that it fits smoothly and easily and firmly. And then the major innovation is this little clip-on, clip-off two-way valve, which allows you to breathe the air in from the bottle, and when you exhale for that to come out, this little exhaust valve on the side, so it doesn't push all the medication out, so that kids can just breathe normally in and out through this device and get all the medication into their lungs.
It's not that intimidating because it's a bottle.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's the great of the psychology of the design, is that it's not going to cause too much of a, oh, what is that now? I mean, it's a bottle. You drink water from it or juice. And as a young child, it's great. Also, on top of the valve, I saw a little detail over there as well. Is that my South African, like almost like a South African flag?
Yeah, we put the South African flag orientation on the front. Yeah, I can't believe you noticed that.
I love attention to detail, and I mean, just very proud.
He's one of the most South African people that I think we've ever met. I absolutely love... No, dude, I think there is something... This doesn't feel medical. This feels more socio-economic. This feels like an answer to a section of society that has been kind of left out. It's being recognized globally. The whole world is seeing this. There is an opportunity for South Africa to drive this kind of innovation. How does it feel to know that now you've gotten to this point where the rest of the world is finding out about it? Now you can release it to market. You can start to get it out there. Now you're seeing your little baby enter into its real world.
Well, I mean, as you said, for the start, it was really amazing because the children weren't afraid of it. It was really easy. And if you break it, you just made another one in the old days. We've actually found... We found quite good uptake, not only around in South Africa. I mean, I have pictures of children in Guatemala using the spacer.
Wow.
Even in high-income countries where people don't have insurance, you know, this was a thing to use. So it was great to see this being taken up, and it was great for the first time seeing state-of-the-art good asthma treatment being available to children in all circumstances. And I think that was the philosophy and it's really great now to see that it's being mass-produced and potentially, you know, much more widely available.
This is amazing. You don't understand. I mean, maybe you've been so close to this for so long that maybe the impact is a little bit lost on you. But for us to see this come into our space, to see the simplicity of it, but what it meets, the challenge that it meets and answers is incredible. Well done. We're not going to let them go anywhere. I want to know a little bit more about how that guy works, and we are doing a deep dive into allergy season at the moment. I know a lot of people suffering. Help is at hand. Stick around.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back, Professor Heather Zaar, and pediatric pulmonologist, and Professor Mike Levine, CEO of the amazing Allergy Foundation of South Africa, are still with us this morning as we delve a little deeper into the world of allergies. I know I'm kind of smiling, but a lot of people suffering right now, man.
I mean, this topic is nothing to sneeze at. So this year, it's World, of course, Allergy Week. I had to do it, I'm sorry. The focus is managing allergic diseases amidst environmental changes, and we need to tap into that, and this is why we have the prof as well as the Allergy Foundation on the couch today. And let's start off with the elephant in the room of the earth, which is climate change. And I'd love to just tap into your resources here, Professor, around climate change and how it's affecting allergies in the globe. The world's getting warmer, things are changing, weather conditions are getting more and more severe. How is this affecting allergies?
Climate change is really impacting on health, and allergies is one aspect, absolutely. I mean, we've seen huge wildfires. We know the impact of that on, for example, asthma.
Yes.
And it's impacting on food production, on health generally in terms of nutrition. And yes, I think with the extremes of temperature, changes in the kinds of pollen and grasses and the fauna and flora, climate change is affecting allergies as well as many, many other aspects of health. Mike, you might have more to say about allergies in terms of climate
There's
change.
definite evidence that the pollen counts are increasing, our pollen seasons are increasing in duration. And then there's the intersection between pollution and allergies as well. Wow. One of the interesting things is that people have discovered that particular diesel exhaust fumes kind of attach to pollens and then make them more allergenic. So it kind of boosts your pollens and makes it worse. So the overlap between, you know, what we're doing to our environment in many different ways is having massive effects.
This becomes kind of a canary in the mine, which is great. So we can, from the perspective of data sharing at the moment, seems to be the big hill that we've climbed through this COVID era. People are sharing information, sharing knowledge, but it's terrifying when the knowledge all starts coming in. We start to see these links. Do we know which allergies are being exacerbated the most through this process when we talk about climate change and the way that the environment is changing? Are we seeing particular focal areas, any particular major red flags that have got you concerned?
Well, one of the really interesting things in South Africa is that there is a specific weed called the ragweed, which we used to think was not present in our country at all. And we've recently found with increased pollen monitoring that ragweed is in South Africa, and it's one of the most potent and severe allergens that can occur. It causes local symptoms like hay fever and asthma, but it's also associated with some weird syndromes where you have pollen allergy, and then that in turn causes cross-reactivity with foods, and then you get food allergies because of your pollen symptoms. So that's one of the, I think, the big news events in South Africa at the moment with regards to climate change and changes in pollen.
Wow, so we've got climate change, we have pollution, we have ragweed, we've got diesel fumes. We've got so many things to look out for now. So is this going to be something that's going to continually be a problem? Is this going to be something that we have to prepare for on a medical level? Do we have to prepare the... Excuse you?
I know. And
See,
all I want to do is cough and sneeze. That's all I want to do.
That was the perfect timing. Well done. You remembered the script. Anyway, but I mean, is this something that we're going to have to live with? And the severity thereof, is it something that we're going to have to live with for a long time? Is this going to be our future?
Is it snowballing? Yeah.
And this is to either one of you, but is this the future?
I'd say so. I mean, there's a lot of data that has been showing that in South Africa, rural communities and poorer communities have been relatively protected against allergies historically. And that's rapidly changing. We're seeing that this pattern that the people in the urban areas who are riddled with hay fever and asthma and all sorts of other things, that's spilling over into the rural communities as well.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that is going to worsen over the next 10 to 20 years.
And I'm so grateful that we've got the likes of you and your organization focused on a social economic bracket that I think just often gets completely looked over in this particular space, but something that's so widespread, that's becoming more and more complex. Thank you for having your hearts where they are. Congratulations on the AFRI space. I think this is going to change the game completely. And thank you once again for being here during a very important time. I didn't realize how many people are affected by allergies. So let us know how you are affected and what are your go-to remedies. How do you take care of allergies during allergy season?
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show, Expresso here in S3, and we are wrapping up our discussion on World Allergy Week with Professor Heather Zaar, a pediatric pulmonologist, and Professor Mike Levine, CEO of the Allergy Foundation of South Africa. And of course, we have to traverse some of the most common chronic diseases in the humans. I mean, there are allergic airway diseases of the respiratory system, and asthma affects over 350 million people worldwide, and allergic rhinitis affects between 10% and 50% of the population, depending on geographic location. Basically, what we're saying is it's going to affect us, but how do we mitigate some of those effects and how do we understand it a bit better? This is why we got the pros in just for you.
Perhaps I'm thinking maybe there's something we can find that's wrong with the coast, okay? Just maybe does it have a higher pollen count? Because I know, like down here in Cape Town, we've got the best sun for solar, we've got the freshest air for breathing. Does it make a difference in terms of geographically within South Africa, where you are? Is the Highveld worse? I always felt like the Highveld was worse.
I feel that too.
What are those hotspots? Bless you.
So absolutely, what you're allergic to is dictated by where you live. And in the coastal areas, we've got much more humidity, so we've got house dust mites as one of the big problems. Anywhere near the coast has got seaweed. There's a specific species of mold that grows particularly in seaweed that is quite allergenic. And then it differs according to where you are. So if you're living in the winelands, if you're living in a place where there are lots of fields around, there might be mice, horses. And then in the Highveld, although you might think that there's less of those kind of allergens around that like humid areas, a lot of people have got thatched roofs on their lapas, and that's where, you know, you can also have mold growing. So the trees are different, the pollens are different, but the house dust mite is really one of the most powerful allergens, and that's predominantly in the coast.
What does that result in terms of its reaction? Is that an asthma-related trigger? What is the dust mite doing?
All of these are aeroallergens. So these are things that you breathe in that can cause either allergic rhinitis or asthma as the major respiratory conditions that you get from allergies.
All right.
I would add that in asthma, it's usually not one single thing.
For sure.
Trigger. And in children, it's very, very often the virus that we've heard about that is around, you know. And those are the major triggers. And a lot of children, in fact, with asthma in our communities do not have allergies that you can demonstrate, although those that are more severe do have. But it's really a whole lot of things in the environment that a person may be exposed to that often, you know, is revving up this inflammation in airways.
I'm going to ask you very quickly before we wrap up here. Advice for someone who's caught in it right now, especially when it comes to kids. And I speak from a parent's perspective here. If you've got a child that is entering into that phase where allergies are becoming a thing, where do we begin when trying to treat allergies, particularly in your focal area when it comes to the lungs and the rhinitis?
So I would say for parents, the most important thing to do is get yourself well informed.
Okay.
And the best place to do that is to go to the Allergy Foundation website, allergyfoundation.co.za, there are huge amounts of information brochures about how to control your rhinitis, how to use your nasal sprays, how to use your sinus rinses effectively. In terms of asthma, we focus on some key messages, which are regular controller therapy taken every day to prevent you from having symptoms, rather than waiting until the symptoms occur and putting a band over the problem and trying to just deal it too late. And then finally, you know, get your medication to where it's supposed to work. So use a spacer, get that medication into the lungs. There are so many people who are using asthma pumps, who are using them inefficiently. They may as well be throwing them away. They may as well be spraying them into the air. All children and any adult who's got difficult to control asthma, who's on a medium to higher dose of therapy, can benefit from using a spacer in order to get the delivery of the medication to the lungs and avoid the side effects from having it in the throat where it shouldn't be. So I think those are some of the key messages around good care for allergies and asthma.
Thank you for the work you are doing on that baseline. We absolutely love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, professors. Mike Davida, Heather Zar, and of course we'll be delving into all sorts of other aspects of allergies in the next couple of minutes. But for now, let's focus on footy.